Hey everybody, it's Brad. Since it's New York Fashion Week, I want to talk about one of the fashionably trendy things that I've noticed that's been going on around the art world recently, which is wealth shaming. A lot of people have decided that it's actually very cool to discriminate against those who are differently moneyed, and they're treating these collectors like they are second or even business class citizens. Now, obviously, we don't want bad billionaires supporting art. We want good billionaires supporting art. Female inheritance recipients, bisexual landlords, CEOs who retweet Beyonce. These are just some examples of the good billionaires that we want supporting the art world, but we're not going to have any good billionaires supporting the art world if we keep demonizing everyone who is a person of means. So what I've done is come up with some new ways the art world can be more inviting to people of means, and I've done this with the core values of inclusivity and respecting wealth difference in mind. The first thing we need to do is a little something I like to call acknowledging the historical exclusion billionaires have faced from our art institutions. In more concrete terms, what I'm proposing is that we come up with a list of every person of means who has ever donated a large sum of money to the museum, and then we put it all their names on a big, beautiful placard. So that the first thing you see when you walk into a museum are all those people of means' contributions. Artists can be very egotistical in the way that they want all the spotlight in art museums for themselves. Well, guess what? We have to learn how to share, because the days of ignoring people who built those museums from their own tax breaks are over. That's why I'm proposing we don't just stop at the placard. We should renounce our artistic privilege even further by putting the names of big donors on every wall of every museum. I'm talking elevators, staircases, drinking fountains, auditoriums, even bathrooms. These are all perfect opportunities to pay a little respect back to some of the people who made art possible. And honestly, I don't think it's out of the question to start naming some of these art museums after art collectors instead of artists. I mean, what the fuck is a Guggenheim? Is that even a word? Instead of naming our museums after made up, invented words that don't even make sense to say out loud, we should be naming our museums after real wealthy people who had real jobs, who collected real art. The next idea I had for making a more inclusive art world for good billionaires is one word alone, and that is media visibility. Yes, I recognize the art media is about as good as it gets. It's wonderful. I mean, it's full of intelligible art criticism and erudite long-form writing that kind of ties artists' entire careers together. It's full of brave, investigative journalism that shines light on the mechanisms of power in the art world. But within all of this, do you notice anything that's missing? That's right. Collectors have been missing from the conversation in the art media. What I'd like to see is an art media landscape that actually focuses on some of these collectors whose voices have been missing from the conversation for so long. I'd like to get to a point where it's actually normal for a newspaper like the New York Times to regularly publish more articles about collectors than artists year after year. I'd like to get to the point where collectors appear on the cover of art magazines just as frequently as actual artists themselves. That's progress. But it's not all about splashy covers. I mean, what if just art journalism could make an effort for once to publish articles about what art collectors are buying or how much money collectors are paying for art at auction? I mean, where has the visibility been for collectors and art media? And don't you tell me that you think that visibility is a purely symbolic gesture. Tell that to the little son of a Goldman Sachs employee who's opening his dad's art forum for the first time, and he sees an art journalism article in there about a man, a billionaire who bought his own museum, and he looks at that and says, hey, that's somebody from my class. That's somebody whose inheritance looks like mine. Think of how powerful that moment is for that little billionaire. The final idea I had for a more inviting art world for good billionaires is inclusion at the gallery level for both dealers and artists. We're not going to be seeing more good billionaires buy into the art world if the artists and dealers share nothing in common with the good billionaires themselves. Yes, it's great to have dealers like Jessica Silverman in the picture, but we need more children of real estate dynasties to start their own galleries. Yes, it's great to see artists like Ed Forniellis getting represented by galleries, but to be honest with you, most galleries are only willing to accept one member of British aristocracy on their roster, which, to be frank, kind of tokenizes his role. Creating real class diversity on your roster requires a money blind approach, where you see artists for the production budgets they provide, not the source of their income. I'd like to progress in the art world to a point where we can have a group show featuring all members of the British aristocracy without it being about the British aristocracy. You know what I mean? Just letting the work and its production budget speak for itself. Well, I hope this video has awoken you to some of the real issues people of means are facing in the art world. So the next time you think about discriminating against a person of wealth, just remember that the 0.0000001% are the smallest minority in the world, and they deserve our protection because of that.